Hey everyone, this is Year of the Book. Welcome back to my channel where we are documenting our writing journey and all the bumps along the way. So, today I wanted to talk about an unexpected benefit of being a short story writer. Something that I had never thought about before, but that I feel like has been an absolute game changer for me in my writing journey. So, if you've been watching my channel from the start, from the beginning of 2026, you will know that my initial plan was just to focus on writing. I had all these unfinished, drafted stories or ideas, and I wanted to focus on getting them written up. And I made an explicit decision to not really think about publishing at that point because I was like, what's the point? I have to actually write them. And part of that is because I'd struggled to finish them, and they'd been sort of lying around for years. I wasn't writing consistently or regularly. I wasn't really thinking about it in a structured way until this year. So my focus was on the writing. And then I realized that focusing just on the writing and not thinking about the publishing also enabled me to really block out the potential, well, not the potential, the actual obstacles and challenges in getting published. The idea of self-publishing felt and still feels to me really overwhelming, having to do everything yourself, but also the idea of querying agents and all that also felt and still feels really overwhelming to me. So I think just focusing on the writing was all I was able to do at that point. And then a few months in, I found out that it's really difficult to get short story collections published if you're a completely unknown and unpublished author. And there was an initial, oh shit, right? Also, why didn't I find out about that earlier? So it kind of put a blocker on things, but very quickly I found out that as short story authors, we have a lot of options to get individual short stories published. And once I realised that and I started looking into those different options like literary magazines, anthologies, writing competitions, I feel like that changed everything for me. Why? Well, this might have something to do with also having ADHD, right? Because when you write short stories or flash pieces, as I've recently discovered, you can get through things relatively quickly. And the fact that you can then submit them somewhere straight away without having to finish a full book or a full collection, that gives me dopamine, right? That is exciting. And also, it gives me deadlines, right? Because you have specific submission windows, deadlines for competitions, and so on. And I can work to a deadline. I like that, and I need that pressure sometimes to kind of get through things. It gives me that push. So this has been a complete game changer for me. And I now find that I'm happier to do several rounds of edits of a story because I can see a finish line. There's a very clear finish line. I'm going to submit this story to this anthology call or whatever. So there's a clear finishing line in sight for me, and this is motivating. And then also you feel like you're making progress. Not only do you have a growing number of stories that you're writing, but you have a growing number of submissions in my little Excel sheet. And that is also exciting for me. It also feels a lot less overwhelming to prepare and submit an individual short story than it does to prepare, curate a full collection of short stories, or to prepare a full-length novel and start querying it. It's simply more straightforward from my perspective. I think it's also good for me because submitting your individual short stories does not require you to go through a literary agent as you would normally have to do if you wanted to traditionally publish a book. And that sort of gatekeeping step, it's an additional obstacle. It's a barrier you have to get through in order to get closer to publishing. But for me, it's also an additional like relational navigation to struggle with, in terms of like the framing of the emails, the waiting for either direct or form responses from people. Don't like those kind of interactions. It's much easier for me to not have to establish or try to establish another relationship with someone when I can just send things directly to a press or to a contest. So honestly, since I found this out, I have felt more motivated to work with my stories. I've been probably writing more often, even if I'm not writing for very long. I'm feeling more motivation throughout the week. So there are just times when maybe it's just an hour, half an hour, where I'll just turn to a story and do a bit of work on it. I wasn't doing that previously. I was previously just writing on my dedicated writing evenings. But I've felt energy and motivation, and I've kind of run with that. And I think that I wouldn't have as much of that motivation if I didn't have those deadlines to work for, those calls that excite me, that I want to publish with. So that's it really. I would love to know if you are a writer with ADHD as well, if you can relate to any of this, if you also write short stories, if you struggle with your motivation sometimes to keep going, and what motivates you and supports you to keep writing. This is definitely something that's working for me at the moment, so I'd love to hear your experiences as well. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye!